Hi everybody, this is Dan Stolbarger. Welcome to this week's KFIR Middle East update. As we jump into this, just a reminder, grab the PDF PowerPoint. I want to give you so much information and I try to keep this at that 10-minute range, and that's impossible. But if you grab the PDF, you're going to have much more than I can give you on the video. So get that. Holygroundexplorations.com, or it should be a link on the YouTube channel that you're watching this on. We always start off with our news bites, but before we do, just my gut of what's going on. I always, on Thursdays, that's when I put this together, I always wonder, should I wait a little longer? Should I wait until the afternoon? Shall I wait till Friday? Because it just seems like something big is about to break. It feels as if in so many areas, the cauldron is bubbling, but it's not spilling over yet. And I got a feeling it's about to happen. Well, we always start with news bites. Benny Gantz, the defense minister of Israel, just today made the statement that the country is prepared to engage militarily directly with Iran, even if it's on its own. With everything that's going on, the rising tensions, the new president-elect, hardliner, I think you say his name, Abraham Rassi, leakage out of the Middle East basically presents the facts that most believe that Iran could make up to 10 nuclear bombs before any sort of nuclear agreement, if ever there is one, is agreed upon. So all of this creates that bubbling sensation, and my gut says something is about to happen soon. And then we've got the coronavirus. And the whole thing with the virus now, was less than a month ago that I think the polls said that like 89% of Americans that were polled believed we're over the hump, it's in the rearview mirror, etc. And now less than 3 weeks later, those polls dropped from 89% to 45%. What a dramatic drop. And now there's just a sense of despair and hopelessness. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into the rest of this presentation. So, fighter jets. In Lebanon, there were 3 rockets that were fired into the Kiryat Shimona area and causing fires. And Israel immediately responded both with tank as well as today with fighter jets that targeted the areas in which these rockets were launched. It seems that they're a Palestinian group, not necessarily the Hezbollah, but just like I said before, the cauldron is bubbling, and we're wondering, does Hezbollah step up? And if there were 3 that launched, remember, over 100,000 rockets are at the disposal of Hezbollah. What will it take for this to break out? Well, as I mentioned, Israel has struck. The IDF retaliatory strikes escalated to F-35s that are in the area that have targeted these sites. You can see pictures in the slides of the fire that was started throughout the northern part. It's really the border town between Lebanon and Israel up north, the Kiryat Shimona. And so these airstrikes, they're the first that have been openly acknowledged by Israel since 2014. And as I said before, it's a matter of time. We're waiting. It's ticking. What will Hezbollah do? Israel and Iran. Earlier this week on Monday, a oil tanker was attacked by drones, Iranian drones. 2 people were killed. The tanker was owned by an Israeli billionaire, and on Monday in Israel, both Israel, the US, and Britain have all, in a sense, said the facts are clear. This is from Iran. And so Israel's been sort of given the green light to retaliate. And on Monday, Iran basically said, you better watch out, because anything that you do, we're going, first of all, they've denied this attack. And now they're saying if Israel does anything, we will retaliate with full force. So it goes back to what I was saying about this cauldron seeming to be boiling, and you're wondering what's next. As I mentioned, I wanted to go, I don't really want to do this, but we need to, kind of the update of COVID. Have you noticed the full court press that the Biden administration is pushing us towards something that feels as if it's going to be a national mandated vaccination? You know, already there are private employers that are requiring vaccinations. A CNN article basically says Biden may not have to do anything because private corporations and businesses are starting to contemplate requiring all employees to be vaccinated. It seems, as I've been watching the Olympics, it seems like every other commercial is about being vaccinated, not being necessarily an anti-vaxxer whatsoever, but it sure seems as if our country is being divided over this issue. How bad can things get? You know, like most Americans, I think I'm longing for some kind of normalcy, but I think I've come to the realization that that's impossible. I think that this chapter in our history, it's happened faster than any time before, but I don't think there's a going back. In Israel, you know, they're the self-proclaimed, we've beaten this, 3 months ago? And now Bennett is reportedly considering shutting down another lockdown, especially with September, the feast of September, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, that sort of time. They're thinking about shutting the country and locking it down once again, and you know, the economy and the tourists industries are saying we can't afford this. There's no way we can survive another lockdown. The cauldron's bubbling once again. There's an article here, you know, you can read it in detail, but you've probably heard of the quote that Nazi Germany used a lot from Goebbels that said, it's on the one big lie, that if you tell a lie big enough and you keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. So there's an article here from this thought and what's coming out of the Palestinian Authority, especially regarding the Temple Mount. It's consistent. It's the denial of any Israeli presence. And I've given you a list of things that are coming out. And as insane as they all may be, the fact is that it's this repetition that at one point in time, it's been given so often that people soon believe the lie. It's sort of like a zombie-like nature, being able to kind of quote it back. So you can read that on your own. That's slide 7. In our country, I've given you a list because there's 7 House Democrats that are critical of anyone donating to Israel, and they want to take away any sort of tax-exempt nonprofit status from any of these organizations. And, you know, the names are familiar. You've got Rashida and you've got AOC. And, you know, I just want to always put it out there so we realize it's happening in our country as well. You know, this whole Ben and Jerry's ordeal. So BDS, anti-Semitism, you name it, continually on the rise. And then the last article for this week is the new Iranian president that was placed into office on Tuesday. His first day in office. Abraham Raisi. Just so you know some background on this former judge. In 1988, there was a political purge in Iran. At that time, as a judge, he was given the nickname the Butcher of Tehran for allegedly ordering pregnant women to be tortured and prisoners to be thrown off of cliffs. And so this is the person that this nation, Iran, has given the reins to as we move ahead. And so what kind of negotiations, what kind of trust, what's the future look like? The cauldron is bubbling. If there is good news, and there is good news, it's the fact that God is still in control and he didn't have to catch up. He always has been. In this world, we're promised difficult times and tribulations, but Jesus said, fear not, don't be afraid, don't be discouraged. I'll be with you through these times. Our prayer here at KFIR is that we would raise up a generation of those that would claim the title being a part of the tribe of Issachar, because those in Issachar, it was said that they understood the times and they knew what to do. May that be true of us all. God bless you. Shalom.